and welcome to the first episode of a new season of Survivor. It's the Survivor Recap. You know me as Brian Dummer, and I am joined by a new guest, a new analyst. Jake Kopp unfortunately graduated, so he's no longer a part of the student television station. We've got Nick Collenburg here, and he is an expert. Really excited to have you here.
Thank you, Brian.
Welcome, Nick. Let's get down to it. Survivor Caramoan, Season 26, Fans versus Fan Favorites 2. I'm the fan favorite. You're the fan.
Yeah, I guess on this one.
No, not really. We've got a lot of topics to talk about, including a little bit about the cast selection. We're also going to talk a little bit about what we can expect in the coming weeks. Nick, what was your reaction as you watched the first episode?
Yeah, I think the first episode was pretty solid. It set up a lot of the big-time conflicts that are going to happen in this season. The event, or the challenges, the first challenge for the Flint and the Beans was amazing. I mean, it was physical. I mean, at one point, Malcolm's pants were around his knees, and like it was so awesome to see that, and started off the season with a huge bang.
Yeah, certainly. We'll get to that a little bit more too. I think it was definitely a good start to the season, and I think it has all of the makeup to be one of the better seasons of Survivor. One thing I want to start with talking about is actually to talk a little bit about the cast that was selected. The cast mainly, when I say that, the cast of favorites. We've seen a very successful Survivor Fans versus Fan Favorites season with Survivor Micronesia. And that was one of the most successful, if not the most successful, Survivor seasons of all time. This time, the cast might not be quite what it was then. Nick, tell me a little bit about your reactions to that.
Yeah, there were a lot from Redemption Island. I think 4 of them.
4 or 3, yeah.
3 of them.
You've got Philip Shepard,
Francesca.
4. You've got Andrea Belke, and I think that was it for that.
I think that was it for them. But so that was really interesting. Bringing back Malcolm, love it. But I think bringing back the favorites, a lot of them were kind of like, Eric was an interesting choice for the favorites.
As we can remember, Eric was on Survivor Micronesia, the first Fans versus Fan Favorites, and he was certainly a fan favorite in that season, and I don't think you can deny that he deserves to be here.
Yeah, he made a huge mistake at the end by giving up the immunity.
How can you forget that? It's been known as the dumbest move in Survivor history.
But I think
may have been a little, that may have changed since Survivor Samoa or Heroes versus Villains, but still one of the dumbest moves.
Yeah, and I think he'll look for redemption this time around.
Yeah, certainly. One thing I was really pleased about is I was pleased by several of these cast members. One thing we didn't mention, Survivor South Pacific also has a really huge showing here. You've got everybody from Dawn to Cochran, also from Survivor South Pacific. You've got Brandon Hance. Very controversial figure. I'm not sure Brandon Hance deserves to be back. I think he rose to fame because of the fact that he was Russell's nephew. But as a player, I think he's just crazy. And not in a good way, not in the way that Philip Shepard is. What do you think of Brandon?
Yeah, I think he's too out there for the game in general. It's kind of using a name to ride on a coattail. I'm not a big fan of him, but I could see somebody having him stick around for a little while longer. This next episode preview, definitely shows him on the craziest side that we have ever seen, and he's nuts. Like I think he's nuts.
Do you think he can make it to the merge?
No,
I don't either.
No.
And
I give him maybe 2 more weeks.
Yeah, and when I say that, I don't think he deserves to be there. I would love to see, and this is a hint to you Survivor producers out there, I would love to see him compete against Uncle Russell. I don't know if Russell would agree to it, but please,
it would be bring
that to us.
Yeah.
We would love it. Of the fans who came back, I think one person who is definitely surprising is Francesca.
Yeah.
What is Francesca doing here, Nick? What do you think?
I don't know. We saw her get kicked out after the first episode in Redemption Island. Once again, comes back to play the game, kicked out right away again. I don't think she's that smart of a player. She always talks herself up, and people go, oh, she's a threat. But she's never gotten a chance to be a threat. So you bring her back for another chance, they kick her out right away. I really don't know if she would have been that big of a threat So why get her off right away?
I almost think part of the reason she came back was basically to empower Philip Shepard.
The conflict of that, yes.
That
definitely.
was a major conflict, and I think everybody knew from the beginning that Philip was not going to be okay with that. No. That was going to be an issue, and I think it plays in to his play for power.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I think by him being able to kick her out, to have an enemy right off the bat that everybody is really unsure about, I think it sets him up for future episodes to be this big power player. One thing, and this will go a little bit off topic, that we noticed last night when we watched it together, we thought it was really humorous how Philip Shepard actually had this plan of imitating Boston Rob. Nick, tell the audience about that.
He had the BR rules.
Yes.
And I really feel that nobody can beat Boston Rob. And to try to imitate.
Why is that?
Because he has a charm to him. He has the way he conducts himself as a human being in this game. Nobody can duplicate. Nobody can duplicate it.
So would you say the
know
charm?
what his rules are. Obviously, Phil came up with the BR rules, and I think this charm of his, and everybody respects him. He's been there. I think that's Boston Rob. That's his persona. That's him. There's nobody that's going to be able to do that. Same thing with Russell. Nobody can be Russell.
All right, I'm going to read these rules in a second here. All right, this is Philip's interpretation of the BR rules. BR1, get an alliance. BR2, get an alliance within the alliance. And BR3, get rid of your alliance before they get rid of you.
Pretty sure that's how you should play the game no matter what.
Exactly, and I don't honestly see why this is so controversial, why this is such a big deal. I would hope that all of the fan favorites are actually playing by these rules. I really don't see it, but hey,
I don't know how somebody
Philip Shepard is just a great contestant, and I love seeing him on the show. I hope he makes it until the end. Who else would you really like to see make it from the fans to carry on over into the show?
From the fans or the favorites?
I'm sorry, from the favorites.
From the favorites. Okay, we'll go with favorite first.
There were a few other mistakes. The Heroes tribe. Come on, Jeff. Really? That's okay. Let's go ahead.
So yeah, with the favorites, I really like Malcolm, and he was the new kid on the block, and he is just so powerful physically. It is going to be hard for anybody to let him go. And it was really interesting that he wasn't talking to anybody about alliances yet.
And I don't know if we really, I'm sure something had to happen. We really didn't see it. I'm not sure why that quite happened. I guess he was maybe the swing.
Right.
Although I think that would make great entertainment. I don't quite realize, I'm not quite sure why that happened, but I hope we see a lot more from from Malcolm in the next coming episodes.
Yeah, he's powerful, but we talked about this too. He's coming back to back on Survivors. So that's something that's really interesting, and seeing if he can physically do back-to-back Survivors.
Yeah, and I think the other thing that's really great about Malcolm is he, from the beginning, has always shown that he is a really big Survivor fan.
Yeah.
So he's a fan. He's also a fan favorite. You know who I'd really like to see him work with? I'd love to see him work with Eric.
Yes.
I mean, you may recall Eric, I believe it was Eric who had a guest come on for when they had the family visit, and he was basically saying to his loved one, "Oh my gosh, it's Jeff Probst, look at him." I mean, that was basically what we had, and I think, he's just a fun guy to watch. As for me, I'm going to go ahead and go a little bit of a different direction. Malcolm's great, but I am really most excited about seeing Brenda. Now, she was on Survivor Nicaragua, and it was really a dud of a season. If you remember, that's the season where they divided the old folks from the young folks. Jimmy Johnson was on it, and she was one of the really manipulative players in the game. And I think it's great to see her back. I really think that she will be very powerful if she makes the right alliances. And it seems as though after last night's episode, that might not be the case. Hang in there, Brenda. We'd love to see you play some more. Let's go on a little bit to the fan side of things. I think a very interesting cast has been displayed from the fan side. Nick, who really impresses you at this point, or who doesn't impress you, I guess? Is there someone that stands out to you?
Yeah, I have two people that stand out to me. First, I'll start with the bad and end with the good. Shamar, the Brooklyn, New York native, ex-Marine, conflicts already at camp. what was that? You got to set up shelter. Why don't you try to get fire while the other tribe members set up the shelter? You got to boil water. If you're working your butt off trying to set up the shelter, you're gonna want water, so you're gonna be dehydrated.
So are you making his point for him, or what are you saying?
No, I'm saying because he was concerned that nobody else was gonna help him make fire to get the water.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know, take 3 people to get the fire going. You know, everybody else. Yeah. There's 10 people in camp. I mean, you got to be able to work. You got to be able to work out with that. And I just feel like he didn't, and he instantly caused a wedge. And that first tribal council for the fans is going to be very, very interesting.
Let's talk a little bit about the dynamics of that tribe right now. We haven't seen them go to tribal council yet, so we don't really know how they will vote.
Yeah.
But there are very clear alliances that have been set up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about what you think of what we saw.
Yeah, the whole cuddle fest was a little interesting. But I think the alliances on the fan side, you know, they're strong already, and they'll be obviously put to the test right away on their first tribal council. So,
yeah, one thing we saw, I mean, that I think was really interesting is we saw the couples, we saw the other guys, but I am really intrigued by Michael and Matt. They had that little conversation in the water, and I am really curious to see how that's going to play out. Really excited about that. The whole mood to that scene almost seemed to set something up. The music came in a special way that really seemed as though it was almost foreshadowing for future episodes. Really excited about that. I think they seem like 2 really great players, and hopefully they can intermingle in the way that Eric did in the original Fans versus Fan Favorites. Yeah. I think that is really something that we should keep an eye on as we move on. Looking ahead now, what do you expect for next week?
Well, for next week, I don't know if the fans are going to lose yet. I think the favorites are too caught up into the game, and they're not focused enough on the challenges, and that's going to end up hurting them because they'll have to go to tribal council. So I really think I think maybe for the next 3 weeks, the favorites are going to have to go to tribal.
It might be the case. You know, in the first episode, we saw 2 separate challenges, 2 separate victors. Really, from a physical perspective, you know, that's really what this first part of the game is about. Right. It's more about the physical. You want to keep your strong guys around. Who do you really see as being essential to that on both tribes?
Well, Eddie definitely, the firefighter / EMT from New Jersey. Eddie is going to be huge for the fans, and I gotta stay with Malcolm for the favorites. I mean, he is very powerful, and I mean he showed that. But something else that is really interesting. Philip Shepard, 54 years old, you know, manhandling that ring game in that first challenge, and
he really did put up a very impressive display.
Yeah, and that was one of the things in Redemption Island that everybody kind of questioned him about of his physical play. So,
and I think that's one thing to really point out when you look at the tribe of fans. You might have some people who are muscular, but you do not have anybody on that tribe who is really beefed up and really large. Shepard is a tall guy.
Yeah.
He's a little bit older. He looks like he's a little hefty. And then you've got, for your other muscular guys, you've got Malcolm. And you've got Eric. They're both kind of lanky.
They're kind of the same. The same
they're
build.
Very similar. Very similar build. And I don't know if it's enough to dominate in the physical challenges of this first part of the game.
Yeah. I don't think it's that it's going to be that easy for them to dominate that much. The other key player for the favorites is definitely going to be Andrea Belke. She has some gusto to her, so I think she'll play a major role in that. And you saw it in the first challenge, or the second challenge, excuse me, of running all the way up there. She didn't need any help throwing the boxes off. Like, I just thought it was pretty solid performance by her.
And of course, Nick and I have to admit, we are slightly biased towards Andrea. Andrea used to be a part of student television here, used to go to this university, so we're going to be a little bit biased in our presentation of this. But yes, I would say she certainly is one of the more physical players. Can she keep it up? We'll see what happens.
We'll have to see.
So this has been a great experience so far. I look forward to meeting with you again in the future, Nick.
Hey, it was fun on my first time. So
check out Survivor on Wednesday nights at 7 o'clock here in the Central Time Zone. And you can tune in and catch more Survivor recaps right here, same place you found this at this time next week. Thank you.